About 22 years ago, my then girlfriend and I were on a nowhere in particular to go road trip. I think we were somewhere in Nebraska. It was one of those states that seems to be about 90% corn. We stopped somewhere for the night, at this little podunk motel that had only 5 or 6 rooms available because we were tired and needed to stop. We'd been driving for almost 2 days, switching back and forth, mostly not stopping. It was late when we went in and girlfriend started walking towards the reception room. She stopped and called out for me to come with her. I was looking around at the sketchy fall-down place. There's a dude at the desk inside, and he is huge, terrifyingly so. I'm no slouch in the big guy department either. This guy towered over me by about 10 or 12 inches, which would have made him at least 7 feet tall, and probably had 100 to 150 pounds on me. And he looked like he was extruded from some sort of tree. So we walk in and ask for a room. The guy smiles, nods, writes some things on the desk, takes my cash, hands us a key. There are TVs on the desk, 4 or 5 of them, like stereotypical CCTV displays from the 80s. I look down and notice only one screen because it is graphic. More on this. The guy is wearing jogging pants and clearly has an erection. I take the key and we go outside. Girlfriend is short and didn't see over the desk, so didn't see the porn. The porn was weird. I think it was of questionable legality. There were a number of youngish women who looked about mid-teen in years, working out in a gymnasium, nude. They were vaguely robotic looking, as if they were acting badly. I took in only about 8 to 10 seconds of the porn, but the images have stuck with me over the years. We were both very, very creeped out when we discussed this in our room. I leaned our very large suitcases up against the door and put a vase on the suitcases so that if the door were to open, the vase would fall. I also rigged the windows with some plastic cups so that if the windows opened, the cups would squish and make some noise. Girlfriend and I both showered, then we conkered out on the bed, about 11:45. 3:30 a.m. I wake up. I'm groggy, don't really know what is happening. Just feel weird. I decide to go grab a drink and get some ice from the foyer. Big dude is not around. I decide to look over at the CCTVs on the desk, see what's what, because they're still on. The one screen still has the same porn. One screen is showing surveillance from the parking lot. One screen is showing surveillance from inside our room. Girlfriend is fast asleep on the bed. I leave, go pack up the car quick, pick up my girlfriend and put her in the car, still asleep, and get the fuck out of there. There are a couple of things that have always stuck with me that still give me the creeps when I think about it. The guy, he was so big and solid looking. He never actually said any words, as far as I can remember. He just looked beatific the whole time. The porn was so weird. Non-sexual, just vaguely underage-ish looking girl on exercise bikes and lifting barbells, looking at the camera and realizing that someone had watched us fucking sleep. If we hadn't been so crazy tired from all the driving, it would have been more. This story takes place in 2004, in Kerala, India. I was backpacking at the time with an old girlfriend, and we had been in on the road for about 4 months at this point, young and in love, and completely enthralled by the subcontinent. We had been on a bus ride up from Tamil Nadu all night, and were both looking forward to a shower. Found what seemed to be a decent hotel which promised hot water and air conditioning for a price that was slightly out of our budget, but it was my birthday, so we decided to splash out a little bit. Minutes after settling in, my girlfriend went to use the washroom. She closed the door and then let out a shriek and an expletive. I went to investigate and found a cockroach on the floor, which I promptly squished. I thought to myself, no big deal, what's a cockroach? 20 seconds later, she calls me back. There's another roach scurrying around in there. Squash. Okay, love, go ahead, you're safe now. Rinse and repeat 2 more of the uglies. Splat, squanch. I start investigating the bathroom a little bit closer as my GF is trying unsuccessfully to tinkle, and I notice what looks like sawdust on the floor just in front of the door jamb. The bottom of the bathroom door is also what looks to be water damaged and weakened. What came next still haunts me. I don't know why I did it. It was impulsive and rash, and I definitely did not think about the consequences of the action I was about to undertake. I stood up, took a step back, and gave the bathroom door a hard kick. The lower 2 of the door disintegrated into a shiny, writhing mass of thousands of cockroaches. which in their panicked and disturbed state immediately started jumping around the confined space that we were all occupying. It was like the air turned black with the bodies of these flying terrors, and the only way out of the bathroom was through the now halfway destroyed nest of a door that was dropping more and more roaches out of its hollowed-out insides by the second. Honesty, it was a terrifying, harrowing experience. From the time of the big drop to the moment we fled the room, not more than 45 seconds could have elapsed, but bloody hell did it feel like an eternity. Needless to say, we got out of there, which took some time as all belongings were still inside a room filled with tens of thousands of nasties. Thank the Maker. We hadn't really begun to unpack our bags yet, or it would have been a lot more of a difficult move out of there. The mental image of that door disintegrating still gives me shivers down my spine. When I was about 4 years old, my family ended up staying at the Cedar Lodge Motel where Cary Stayner worked right before he married 4 women. My family drove to Yosemite, and it was a long drive for us. 3 kids, all under the age of 7, plus 2 adults, and a ton of mountains will do that. By the time we arrived at the motel, it was late, we were all cranky, and we couldn't wait to get out. But the moment we pulled in, something set my mom's teeth on edge, and she insisted that we left and found another hotel, reservation or not. My mom has always had this sixth sense, and her gut has actually saved us a couple of times. But my dad was tired and convinced her to ignore her gut and stay for just the night, and the next morning, we'd leave. I can remember my mom actually refusing to let go of our hands, making us stay right by her side as she kept looking around while checking in. To try and get her to relax, my dad suggested we go to the pool, thinking it would calm her down. Well, when we got there were no towels, so my mom called the front desk. The moment the man delivering towels arrived, my mom immediately grabbed us out of the water and rushed us back to the room. The man gave her the absolute creeps, and she says there was just this feeling of pure evil when he looked at us. That night, my mom and dad pushed the dresser in front of the door and had us all sleep in the same bed. The next morning, we left to go to another hotel, but my mom couldn't stop talking about how evil that motel was. About 2 months later, she and my dad were up late watching the news when they started reporting on a man who had murdered a woman and 2 young girls in Yosemite. Just as my mom began to say, "I bet it was at that motel," they showed Cary Stayner's face and said it occurred at the Cedar Lodge Motel. Cary Stayner was the man who brought us our towels at the pool. We've never gone back to Yosemite, and my mom is always insistent that we listen to our gut feeling, and when every bone in your body is telling you something is wrong. We stayed at a motel where serial killer Cary Stayner worked, and my mom's gut told her he was a fucking creep. Finally, something I can answer. I traveled to Liverpool a few years ago with an ex-girlfriend. We stayed in the Adelphi Hotel for 2 nights. I found it on a booking website for cheap, and I am a massive history geek, so I thought it would be perfect. For those unfamiliar with the building, it'd been in continuous use from the 19th century. It has these really old-fashioned rooms with high ceilings and generally Victorian furnishings. I thought it was great if our room was a bit creepy. There was a massive mirror right across from the bed. Just so, there was nothing out of the ordinary, so we went out to explore the town. When we came back at night, we were too tired to even take a shower as we normally do. We fell right into bed. Something to be conscious of before I begin about the actual creepy part is that the room was an ensuite with a tiny foyer in between the bedroom and the bathroom, where the front door to the hotel room was also located along with a storage closet. I always like to lock things before I go to sleep. It's kind of a habit of mine. So I locked both the front door, as well as the chain lock on the door leading to the bedroom. So far, everything was normal, and we drifted off to sleep, or so I thought. Less than 15 minutes after I had closed my eyes, but not yet fallen asleep, I experienced the most intense terror of my life. I'm not talking normal terror. This was the most afraid I've ever been in my life. Like I was consciously aware that someone was watching me and didn't want me to know it. There was a feeling of dread in the air, like something wasn't right. I jumped out of bed and turned the light on. Nothing, but the door was wide open. I woke up my ex and asked her if she had gotten up to use the toilet since we'd gone to bed. She said no. So I asked her again, with more intensity. No, She was certain that neither of us had gotten up in the 15 minutes since we had turned off the lights. I told her, okay, and asked her if she felt weird at all. She said no, just very tired and she wanted to sleep. However, I was too terrified to fall asleep, so I turned on all the lights in the room and locked the door again, trying everything to take my mind off of what was seemingly just an empty room. Every now and then glancing nervously up from my laptop to see if anything was still there. Hours later, I was too tired to stay up anymore and I fell asleep without realizing. But when I woke up in the morning, the door was once again open. Once again, my ex denied either of us using the toilet in the night. The same sequence of events was repeated the next night as well. After the first night, I began to suspect something was not normal. However, I refrained from Googling Adelphi Hotel and haunted until I was on the train out of the city. Apparently, the Adelphi is the most haunted hotel in Britain. I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but I was really frightened that night. I will never forget it. Even now, I'm sat at home in my well-lit flat in the middle of the day, and I'm getting scared writing this. This happened to my father, not me, but definitely too creepy not to share. My father went with a group to go on a trip to Tanzania to do some medical work in a poorer village. For a few nights of the trip, the group stayed in a hotel. My dad was sharing a room with another man from the group, separate beds. One night, he is woken up by his roommate who has the light on. He looks terrified, trembling, and praying. My dad asks what's wrong, but he won't say anything about it. My dad is obviously concerned, but since he can't do anything about it, he goes back to sleep. The next night, in the middle of the night, my father gets up to pee. He walks to the bathroom and starts to relieve himself when he catches a very strong scent of body odor. He and most of the people from the group are daily deodorant wearers, being from the US. Many locals in Tanzania don't wear it as frequently, so when the smell hits his nose, he realizes he and his roommate might not be alone. He turns around and sees, standing there in the doorway, a local woman, shaking violently, her eyes rolled up locked on the ceiling. He panics, as no one should have been able to get into the room. He turns back around towards the bathroom in a moment of confusion, but when he turns back, she's just gone, as if she had never been there. Shaken, he goes back to bed thinking maybe he was dreaming or seeing things. He lays back down on his side and, adrenaline starting to wear off, he begins to doze off again. Suddenly, the smell returns. He slowly rolls over and looks to his left. There, in the bed beside him, is the woman, laying flat on her back, eyes glued to the ceiling. Again, panicking, he breaks his line of sight to her and again, she is gone. My dad wasn't able to get back to sleep. The woman never made another appearance. He asked his roommate about it the next morning and he had encountered the same thing the night before, which was why he was so shaken. It could be explained by the fact that they were both on anti-malarial drugs, which can have side effects that include strange dreams, but still, super creepy. And definitely weird that, even if it was caused by the medication, both my father and his roommate experienced the same thing.